Hello and welcome. I'm James Ezimoha and you're watching A News. Let's see your headlines. Iran claims fresh strikes targeting US bases in assets in Kuwait, Bahrain and Jordan. India's education minister resigns after youth protests. And wildfires force mass evacuations in France as Spain declares emergency. Iran says it has launched fresh attacks on US military bases across the Middle East, while Washington continues expanding its air campaign against Iranian targets. Even as both sides exchange threats and military action, President Trump says talks with Tehran are still underway.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it has launched fresh retaliatory strikes against US military bases and assets in Kuwait, Bahrain and Jordan. The IRGC described the attacks as a response to what it called American crimes against Iran. According to the IRGC, its aerospace forces carried out what it called a crushing strike on Al-Azraq Air Base in Jordan, damaging several US fighter aircraft and hitting barracks housing American troops, causing casualties. The latest attacks came after US missiles struck targets across Iran on Friday. President Donald Trump warned Tehran and its Houthi allies in Yemen of what he called major military punishment. Despite the escalating conflict, Trump said the United States and Iran remain in talks, adding that he believes Tehran is becoming more serious.
And they want to make a deal. I just don't think they're ready yet, but they do want to make a deal. Sometimes they don't want to say they want to make a deal. They want to be the tough guys. But they do want to make a deal. There's two ways. I mean, it's you can just keep doing exactly what we're doing and take them apart piece by piece. We can do it in a more rapid fashion, which we might do, or we can negotiate with them, which we're also doing right now. I mean, as we speak, we're talking to them.
Meanwhile, speaking on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Foreign Ministers meeting, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran would not fear threats or give in to pressure.
There is currently no problem of mediation between us and the United States. There are mediators, messages are exchanged, and viewpoints reach one another. What is problematic is the approach of the United States, which remains a bullying and coercive approach. The Islamic Republic has shown that it will not submit to American bullying, and we in no way respond to the language of force, pressure, and threats.
The US military also said it fired on another merchant vessel, attempting to breach its blockade of Iran's ports as fighting spread across the region. In Yemen, Saudi Arabia struck the port city of Hodeidah after accusing Iranian-backed Houthi rebels of attacking Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea. The Houthis responded by vowing further escalation, ending years of relative calm.
Now let's bring in Dimitri Britse, member of the Middle East and North Africa Editors Network. Join us from Moscow. Good to have you, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, if President Trump orders another major strike, what strategic objective would it achieve now?
I think that the President Trump is trying to change the architecture of the Middle East. If talking about security, if talking about also push Iran going to a deal that will be beneficial for the United States of America, and of course from the economical side, because today Iran having a big impact in the Middle East and in the region. So if the United States of America could make any agreement that could also be beneficial, that could be very good for the US economy. But we know that from 2015, all the agreements are not successful, because in the past, during the ex-US President Barack Obama, there were negotiations and everything was successful, but the US President Donald Trump left all the agreements. Now the United States of America is not with any agreement with the Iranian side, and even the trying to make this agreement successful is still not enough, because you need to have mediators, you need to have also kind of obligations that should be implemented on both sides.
All right. Now, reports suggest Iran has reinforced the Houthis. Does that change the military balance or simply widen the battlefield?
I don't think so, but Houthi, they have big impact on the situation in Gulf countries. Today, Houthis, they are attacking the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they're attacking several Gulf countries, and of course, now the situation in the Middle East cannot be solved without resolution of the situation, of finding solutions for the situation in Lebanon, in Iraq, and Yemen. Because as we know, the groups that are related to Iran, or pro-Iranian groups, are also supporting the foreign policies of Iran in the Middle East. So they are harming the U.S. interests. They are attacking the Gulf countries. So of course, these groups also they will be part of the negotiations with the Iranian side. And the United States, as we know, has conducted repeated strikes against Iranian military facilities, missiles infrastructure, and transportation networks. And what we see, Washington declared objectives is to reduce Iranians' ability to threaten American forces, international shipping, and regional partners. However, the campaign has gradually expanded beyond purely military targets to infrastructure that supports Iran's broader defense system. This creates serious danger of civilian casualties, economic disruption, and prolonged war of attrition. So, of course, the situation is becoming more dangerous if there will be no negotiations, if there will be no mediators, if there will be no agreements between both sides. And I think that the United States of America is trying to change the political regime in Iran until will try to change until the end of this year, because I don't think that the current political regime in Iran could make any agreement with the United States of America, with the current policies of the United States of America and administration of US President Donald Trump.
All right. Have we reached the point where the Red Sea has become just as important as the Strait of Hormuz?
I think so, yeah, because today the Red Sea also is a strategic important place for all the Gulf countries, for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for United Arab Emirates, for Oman, for Qatar, for Bahrain and Kuwait. Today, of course, there will be no negotiations without also finding solution for the situation in Yemen. And I think that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries could also be part of the solution or finding solution for the situation in the Red Sea and the region, because these countries, they are losing also their money and their partnerships with other countries because of the situation in the Middle East. If there will be no solutions, unfortunately, the situation could expand, and it could make also big harm for all the countries that they are neighbors of Iran. If you're talking about Central Asian countries, if you're talking about North Caucasus, of course, all these countries could be part of this crisis.
Now, finally, if pressure builds in both shipping routes at once, how difficult does that become for the United States and its allies then?
I think that the situation is understandable today. You cannot exactly predict what will happen, but I think that the United States of America will go back to negotiations with the help of mediators from the Gulf countries. So, for example, from the Oman side, because Oman also is controlling the Hormuz corridor. And without finding a solution, there will be no peace in the Middle East, and will be more casualties, more attacks on the infrastructure, as we see Iranian drones attacking infrastructure in the United Arab Emirates, in Kuwait, Bahrain. So it's making these countries losing millions of US dollar, and of course this is very dangerous for the stability of the Middle East and also the stability of the region.
That was Dimitri Britse, member of Middle East and North Africa editors Network, join us from Moscow. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Now, the International Criminal Court is entering a period of major uncertainty after a landmark vote to remove its chief prosecutor. The decision comes as the court faces growing pressure from Washington and continues to pursue some of the world's highest-profile war crimes cases.
The International Criminal Court has voted to remove its chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, from office over findings of serious misconduct. The ICC said 82 of its 125 member states backed the decision after diplomats recommended Khan's dismissal. According to the documents, Khan had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a junior ICC lawyer. Khan denies the allegations. Khan's lawyer said he will challenge the decision through all available legal channels. His dismissal immediately starts the process of choosing a new prosecutor, although a replacement is not expected before next year. The vote comes as the United States launches a renewed diplomatic campaign against the ICC. During a visit to the Philippines, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio described some people involved in the court as lunatics and crazies. He also said no American political or military official would ever stand trial before the ICC. The United States is not a member of the court. It has imposed sanctions on 11 ICC judges and prosecutors, including Khan, over the court's arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, as well as a previous investigation into US troops in Afghanistan. Karim Khan also led the legal action that resulted in an international arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin in March 2023 over the alleged unlawful deportation of Ukrainian children. The ICC said all active arrest warrants remain in force because only ICC judges have the authority to withdraw them.
Now, Russia and Ukraine traded fresh drone strikes on Saturday. Russia says it struck vessels in Ukraine's Mykolaiv port. Ukraine says a Russian drone killed 3 postal company drivers in Sumy, while another strike damaged a commercial building in Kharkiv. Inside Russia, drone debris sparked a fire in Yekaterinburg. No injuries were reported. Now, Romania's defense ministry said a second drone breaching national airspace in as many days was shot down by a pilot in an F-16 fighter jet in an uninhabited area near the border with Ukraine. The first drone, which Romanian prosecutors investigating the fragments said was Russian, was shot down by the NATO state on Friday, marking the first time it has done so after dozens of airspace breaches. Authorities in eastern Estonia are stepping up safety measures in schools as concerns grow over the impact of the war in the neighboring Ukraine. Here's the story.
Schools in eastern Estonia, close to the Russian border, are introducing new safety measures to better protect pupils in the event of nearby explosions. Authorities in Tartu, around 45 kilometers from the border, are fitting protective film to classroom windows to reduce the risk of injuries from flying glass if a blast occurs. The move follows several incidents this year in which Ukrainian drones intended for targets inside Russia entered Estonian airspace. Officials say the protective film is based on Ukraine's experience, where flying glass from nearby blasts has caused serious injuries. Schools have also updated their emergency procedures. Staff now have clear plans for responding to drone sightings, including evacuation routes to designated shelter areas.
We have already drawn out the plan. Where are the rooms we can find shelter, and we have prepared the plan how the children from the 4th floor, where are they going from the 3rd and so on, what are the teachers doing, and we even have already cupboards in those rooms which contain some specific items for the first aid and for toilet paper and some maybe gloves and everything that might be needed during 2 or 3 or 4 hours while we are sitting there.
Parents have welcomed the measures, saying they are reassured that schools are prepared and know how to respond if a drone enters the area.
I feel much better than the school is not doing nothing. because I think it's very important in our world now that some protection must be, and I think it's much better when the children are prepared for truth, and I think it's much better than they know that.
The safety plans cover around 30 schools and 38 kindergartens across Tartu.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has arrived in Syria for his first visit to the country in years, underscoring the UN's renewed engagement during Syria's political transition. During the visit, Guterres is expected to meet President Ahmed al-Shara, senior government officials and civil society representatives as Damascus seeks to strengthen ties with the international community. 6 candidates vying to become the next United Nations Secretary General presented their visions for the organization during a public debate in New York.
Welcome to the United Nations General Assembly.
The race to choose the next United Nations Secretary General has entered a decisive stage, with 6 candidates presenting their priorities during a public debate in New York. The candidates shared a common message. The UN must restore its credibility, strengthen multilateralism, prevent conflicts, and reform an organisation facing growing geopolitical divisions and financial pressures. But each offered a different vision for how to achieve that. International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi called for a more realistic approach to diplomacy.
UN is absent from the resolution of the most serious conflicts that we are going through. And we also see that we are not performing at the level we should be in other areas. But multilateralism can deliver.
Meanwhile, Michelle Bachelet, former UN Commissioner for Human Rights, pledged to defend the independence of the Secretary-General, saying she would not bow to pressure from powerful states.
And the key task for the next Secretary-General will be to defend, preserve and improve the organization, including through continual reforms in order to ensure that the UN deliver ever more and better.
Maria Fernanda Espinosa, who previously led the UN General Assembly, said making the organisation more effective at preventing conflicts would be her priority.
I listen to every voice.
Meanwhile, former Secretary-General of the UN Conference on Trade and Development, Rebecca Grinspan, said her priority would be making the UN more relevant, so people no longer ask, "Where is the UN?" Former Senegalese President Macky Sall called for global financial reforms and stronger partnerships, while Guyana's permanent representative to the UN, Caroline Rodriguez Burkett, highlighted neutrality and diplomacy as key strengths of the Secretary-General. 5 of the 6 candidates are from Latin America and the Caribbean, a region widely expected to hold the post under the UN's informal regional rotation system. There is also growing support among many member states for the UN to appoint its first female Secretary-General in the organisation's more than 80-year history. No candidate delivered a decisive performance, although Grossi, Grinspan and Bachelet are seen as the best-known contenders. The next major test comes on July 30th, when the UN Security Council holds its first confidential straw poll, an early vote expected to show which candidates have the strongest backing before the final selection process begins.
Now, India's Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned after weeks of youth-led protests over examination irregularities. Pradhan said he had submitted his resignation to Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a post on his X account. In his resignation letter, he said he was stepping down to protect the future of India's youths and prevent students from becoming entangled in political unrests. The resignation follows weeks of demonstrations over alleged examination paper leaks. The youth-led cockroach movement had demanded Pradhan's resignation, along with the withdrawal of police cases against protesters and compensation for the affected families. Now, still in India, rescue teams have evacuated residents, including children, after torrential monsoon rain triggered severe flooding across India's western state of Gujarat. Homes have been inundated and roads submerged after some areas received more than 30 centimeters of rain in just 24 hours, India's weather department said on Friday. In the city of Navsari, emergency crews used inflatable boats to reach stranded residents, while people in nearby Surat waded through knee-deep floodwater. Despite the disruption, however, the annual monsoon provides most of India's rainfall, supporting water supplies and millions of farming livelihoods. Now, more than 220,000 people have been ordered to flee wildfires across France and Spain as extreme heat, strong winds and merging fire fronts overwhelm emergency services. France has deployed the military and requested European Union support, while Spain has declared its first national wildfire emergency.
Wildfires are sweeping across southwest France and central Spain, forcing mass evacuations and stretching emergency crews to their limits. In France, authorities ordered the evacuation of the entire Cap Ferret Peninsula after a major blaze threatened homes, campsites and tourist areas along the Atlantic coast. Firefighting aircraft and helicopters were deployed as thick smoke rose above forested areas near Lège Cap Ferret. Almost 60,000 people were ordered to leave areas near Bordeaux, while the wider evacuation effort across the Gironde and Landes regions affected around 200,000 people. French President Emmanuel Macron mobilized the military and requested assistance from the European Union as the country's wildfire crisis intensified. Residents fled nearby communities as flames approached homes. Elderly residents were also evacuated from care homes in Saint-Aubin-de-Médoc, with paramedics called to move people from their beds during the night.
I waited for an hour and the police came to tell me to leave. I'm going to do the same now because it's chaos. People aren't paying attention. They're driving recklessly, and if we leave in a hurry, we're going to end up stuck in traffic for nothing.
Across the border in Spain, several large fires west of Madrid merged into a single blaze that officials said was beyond the capacity of firefighters to contain. Spain declared a national emergency, opening access to central government funding and additional resources. Around 25,000 people were ordered to evacuate, while almost 40,000 others were told to remain indoors. More than 2,000 emergency personnel and 10 aircraft were deployed as crews tried to stop fires near Madrid and Avila from joining. Homes were seen burning in the Sierra Oeste region, where Madrid's regional president described the crisis as the worst wildfire in the region's history.
Now, a new investigation by the fact-checking website FactCheck is examining the finances, international contacts and political networks of German politician Frank Schwabe. It's raising questions about transparency and influence.
For years, German politician Frank Schwabe has presented himself as a defender of human rights, an anti-corruption advocate and social justice campaigner. But questions remain over his finances, political networks and international contacts. A fact-check investigation examined claims surrounding his wealth, foreign engagements and advocacy links. Documents allegedly obtained from a darknet source claimed Schwabe's assets reached around $3 million in 2023 and about $5 million in 2024. Investigation compared his reported earnings between 2016 and 2025 were estimated at around 1.58 million euros. The difference has raised questions. In 2023, he met Iraqi minister Evan Jabro, who later faced corruption allegations. Germany has provided more than €3 billion in aid to Iraq since 2014. a country facing major corruption challenges, particularly through foreign funding. He was closely associated with Social Democratic politician Christoph Strasser, whose past positions on paedophilia-related issues caused controversy in Germany. His links with Armenian advocacy networks, including the Central Council of Armenians in Germany, have been questioned. He has repeatedly criticised Azerbaijan over COP29 and its status as an oil producer. Ironically, he supported Schalke 04 while the club was sponsored by Russian energy giant Gazprom. His Russia-related positions have also raised questions. Another case involved Ukrainian activist Lyudmila Kozlovskaya, who has faced allegations of links to Russia. The investigation ultimately raises a broader question. Are Schwab's positions driven solely by the principles he publicly promotes, or are political alliances and strategic interests also shaping the way he approaches global issues?
All right, that's all we have for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.